I must first input the will art for initiating the spiritual link to Mysticete. Now that the art has been entered, the spiritual link binding to me to Mysticete but must be routed through the willstone. Core, establish a spiritual link with me now. I'll then use the willstone's power and guide you to Mysticete's synthetic spiria. The instant you sense Mysticete's spiria, recite the following incantation. To the sky! Sounds like a plan to me. See you later. This feels very end of the game, but also Tales of is known for doing like, kind of like, the characters are like, let's finish this, but then something else happens and you have a little bit more to go. But on the context of the game, it feels end of the game like, but you know, it can go either way. All that's left is to release the Willstone's power. This will force open the path to Mysticete, creating what's called a link line between us and it. But the link line is a vast and unruly power that can easily spin out of control. You Crystal Knights must suppress it. I wish you would have mentioned that before I agreed to help. Force is powerful likely has the potential to tear your spiria apart. It is no more dangerous than what our friends are attempting. And contrary to my appearance, I am a Mineran willcaster of the highest order. Skill is not an issue. My apologies for doubting you. If you are a knight, you are a knight if I ever saw one. Yeah, well, if this entire operation goes south, you better not pin it on me. Yeah, I remember being told. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Alright, chat's saying it's not the final dungeon. Honestly, if no one told me, I'm not saying, again, I'd be shocked if it was the end or if it wasn't. This is very final dungeon-like, though. I would believe this is the end, but chat's saying it's not the very, very end. Which, honestly, I kind of figured it wasn't, but you could convince me. We're underwater? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Honestly, if anything, I thought you would have this, right? You would have Mysticete, and maybe after this, have it back-to-back with an actual final dungeon. I just thought this was like the, hey, this is the last battle, we have to go inside Mysticete, and then Gardenia eventually. Probably some Gardenia stuff's gonna be like a final area or something. I'm gonna drown! Negative, it's impossible to drown inside Mysticete's Spiria Nexus. Hey, he's right, we can breathe. This might actually be kind of fun. This place is a whale after all, right? Maybe Mysticete's dreaming about the sea? I don't know, looks pretty artificial to me. Affirmative. We're inside a synthetic spiria that was fashioned as a means of controlling the fortress. The core resides in the deepest level. Connecting the core will allow me to issue the descent command and thwart the jump to Gardenia. Yeah, to Gardenia. Something like this, where it's like, hey, Mysticete immediately to Gardenia. We must hurry. Even one as strong as Master Lithia cannot maintain the Spiria Link forever. We don't make it back here in time. Spiria Link will be severed, forcing us out somewhere along the link line. Somewhere is awfully vague, Kunzai. He means we'll be thrown out into the upper atmosphere. Ah, so we'll just fall to our death instead of drowning. Yeah, no big deal, dude. If we hurry, it won't be a problem. I'm sure your calm and collected nature has nothing to do with the fact that you can freaking fly. Can I go back, actually? I might want some safer Sonic bottles. I have 9. Oh, I'm not able to go back. Oh, rip. 9 should be fine. 9 should be enough. Whoa, what's happening to the Sorcerer's Ring? Yeah, Tales of is known for false endings. That's true. This is very Tales of pseudo-ending. Like, pseudo-final dungeon. Fake-out ending. Like, the characters think it's the end, but it's probably not. I mean, especially because Alakazam said it's not the end, so. Hey, Pops, what's going on? To the character's knowledge that they're gonna finish it, but probably something else is gonna happen to be like a little conflict for a bit. Beats me. Never heard of anything like this. We are like in the 50s already. We're early 50s, so that should be a decent like way to tell like, oh, this is like, we can't be too far. I'm detecting high energy levels from the ring. It's resonating with the vibrations emanating from the Mysticete's core. You mean the Mineran energy here caused it to evolve? Never seen anything like that in any of my documents I've read about it. You read documents? I never would have known. The game barely gives you any kind of depth. Then I guess that means we won't know what it can do now until we give it a shot. Let's keep going. We can figure it out later. Hey, level 3 Sorcerer's Ring. I can fire energy links from the Sorcerer's Ring. Pog. Yo. I feel like I've heard this track before. This area looks really nice, though. I don't know why. Very well Gaia. Very well Gaia to me. From Symphonia. Color scheme is a little different, but the way it's structured kind of reminds me of Darius Carlon. Not well Gaia, more Darius Carlon. I can see Darius Carlon in this place, which is the first part of Symphonia's final dungeon. It's over. Does Destiny is Asteria Zilly 2 the only games with bad endings? Yeah, that sounds right. Didn't Destiny have an ending where like you can win against Leon in Harments? It was more of a joke ending than a bad ending. Zillia 2 has 3 endings. I think Zestiria had an ending too. It was like you can beat Heldoff or something and you get like a pretty bad ending. I never got it myself, but I've heard of it. Stop this. Stupid dumb cannon enemies. These look like they're ripped out of Star Ocean, specifically Star Ocean 3. Shall I end you? Get air thrusting. Dude, I love air thrust. Zestiria's bad ending is when you reach the end and realize I wasted 60 hours. That's a good one. I've gone on record to say that I don't argue with people who say Zestiria is a bad game, but my personal opinion of Zestiria isn't bad. It's just meh. But I also understand why people consider it a bad game. Zestiria does a lot of things wrong. As I said, I would never fathom it. I would not be able to fathom it if someone said, yo, I love Tales of Zestiria. It's my favorite. I'd be like, really? You sure there's not like nostalgia in that? Like you played that Tales game first, so you just have nostalgia for it? At the end of the day, me personally, I just think it's meh. It's like okay. Okay to mediocre. No better than okay, but even then, more mediocre than anything. I'm gonna play it again for the channel. I'd rather play it than Dawn of the New World, so that's saying something. They did, do horrible with Alicia. I mean, Alicia wasn't like a super interesting character, but even still, they marketed her as like a main heroine and then like pretty much put her on the sideline. What was it, like 10 hours in, give or take? I need to switch to level 3. Do I need to stand on this? Oh, I hit this. No, I don't. Okay. I've heard this track before. Isn't this the track that played on Mysticete? We fought Inkaros, right? Where we fought Inkaros is the track that played. It sounds familiar. I've heard it before. Zestiria is not bad when it comes to story. Goes south when you see character writing. Nah, I disagree. The story's the worst thing in that game. The story's terrible. The gameplay's like pretty fun, but there are better Tales games to play. The characters are okay. Straight up. Saray is a bad protagonist. But then like Rose and Lila's very hit or miss. Rose is fine. Nothing like super standout. Miklio's whatever, kind of fine. Edna and Zabid are good. Who am I missing? I think that's everyone. Saray is like an awful protagonist. Lila's very hit or miss, depending on how you feel about puns, which, you know. Miklio and Rose are... Miklio, like, who cares? Rose was, like, fine. Although, actually, Rose is fine until you play the Alicia DLC. The Alicia DLC is a mess, my word. Rose is fine in the main game, but then when you get to the Alicia DLC, I would even say she's terrible. The writing in that DLC is awful. So yeah, the characters do kind of suck, but I would say the story is actually really bad. The story's like one of the worst things about it, which kind of goes hand in hand with the writing, I guess. The only thing Zestiria has going for it is the lore, because the lore is the same as Berseria. Sort of. It's the same universe, just 1,000 years later. But Zestiria handles the story really badly. It just doesn't really connect all the stuff really well. It feels very disjointed, and it just doesn't, like... The story doesn't really pull you in, I guess. Even though the world is at least a little bit interesting, because Berseria, a game I love, takes place in the same world 1,000 years prior. But Berseria does a lot better with the lore and the story, so... Like, leagues better. Berseria is top-notch in storytelling. Yeah, Alicia couldn't... They made a reason, like, Alicia couldn't join because she had to, like, help with the war. There was a war going on. Or something. Like, Rollins and, what was the other place? Lawrence and something? Rollins, not Lawrence. Rollins and the other place? I don't remember. I don't remember what her side was called. Rollins was their opponents. It's been too long since I played. Yeah, Highland, that sounds right. Am I hitting the right thing? No, Lady Lake was her town. Highland, you're right, it's Highland. It was Highland against Rollins. Lady Lake was where she was from. I remember Lady Lake. Highland was the name I forgot. And Heldolf wasn't a very good antagonist as well. And Tales of normally has okay to good antagonists. Zillia's Gaius, Artorias' Berseria's Artorias. They're really good antagonists. Lambda was like a neat antagonist. I also think Van was kind of interesting from Abyss, but I also haven't played Abyss in a while, but... Duke was okay. Problem with Duke is they didn't really do much outside of side quests for his character, but he was fine. Hey, nothing's happening. Maybe it's broken? Broken? But that would mean... This is the end of the line, no fair! Calm down, you two, the device is not broken. That's a warp crystal. They were long used on Minera for the transportation of all manner of things. Over time, they have lost their reserves of will energy, but we can still use them in passive mode if we provide more. I don't know what passe mode is, but wasn't Sorcerer's Ring reacting to that? Yeah, I tried doing it, it didn't work. Maybe I had to wait for this cutscene, maybe? Could we use the Sorcerer's Ring will energy on the crystal? Good idea, I'll give it a shot. Ooh, that's cool. Just as I thought. Oh, you can only hit it from the front. This is gonna make an interesting puzzle. Oh, never mind. Okay. I thought I had to hit the front. Alright, never mind. It's not as hard. Phew, I thought I'd never be able to come back. Thanks, Kunzite. These devices have been abandoned for thousands of years. They may be others that... Alright. Interesting. Ooh, I see that mech over there. Yo, this is a pretty sick final... not final dungeon. Sick dungeon. Just the look of it is really, really cool. Every Tales game final boss had a belief excluding Kronos? What do you mean belief? You're gonna have to be a little more specific. Excluding Mactron or Kronos from Destiny. I don't really get what you mean by belief. Do you mean like... No, I've got no idea. Just elaborate. I should have got Miracle and Melange shells before doing this, but oh well. Not much you can do about it now. Did we ever get Resurrection with Hisui? I don't recall. He was like on the verge of learning it. Stop this. As in they want to sacrifice humanity in the world? I mean, like, isn't world domination basically sacrificing the world? How is that any different? I recently played Destiny again, but what was Kronos' even motivation? I don't remember. He wanted to like revive the aerial city, whatever that means or something. Didn't he basically want to just dominate the world or whatever, which is the classic trope? Hey, dude. This is an interesting little rock enemy. It kind of looks like the enemies, the rare enemies from Lost Sphere, just a bit. But your bosses and graces were a joke? Yeah. Honestly, I think Richard non-possessed by Lambda bosses, like obviously he's always possessed by Lambda, but I feel like the Richard bosses, like before he gets like his white silver hair, those battles are a joke. Like when you fight him in Lot, when you fight him at World's Eye, when you fight him somewhere else, I think, but I can't remember. You fight him like what, 3 times when he's possessed by Lambda before he gets possessed completely. Those are a joke. They're not very, very hard later, but they get a little bit harder when he's like fully under Lambda's control, like when he has his voice changed and everything. Like at Lambda's Cocoon and Guardia Shaft. Oh my word, calm down. Should heal Kohaku.